Welcome to the Tug of Heart podcast on Strong Island Radio. This is the place where we dig deep into the heart to rise in love. So let's join good friends Lori and Marianne as they discuss understanding and living from the heart.
Hello and welcome to Tug of Heart. I'm Marianne Franzisi and I'm here with my co-host Lori Cordova. Hi, Lori.
Hi, Marianne.
So today we're at episode 10 and we're looking at pessimism in the heart. Feels like they don't go together, right?
Could be not. I'm not. Actually, you were just talking to me a few moments before the show, and I'm coming in a little bummed.
Yes.
But so this is a good time to talk about it, as it turns out, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, oh my gosh, where to go from here, Marianne? I feel like, can I just be honest for a minute?
Yeah, that's the best way to be.
I'm thinking right now, like, okay, we have to do this talk. And in honesty, it's going to suck. We're going to suck. Mm-hmm. We're amateurs. I'm going to lose thought. I'm going to stammer. I'm going to take forever to say things. There's going to be these massive pauses and a ton of Mm-hmm. That's the way it's going to be. I know it. And then I'm going to take so long to explain something. I'm going to look over at Marianne. She's going to have begun a drawing. I only know to stop when it becomes a Rembrandt.
All right, my doodles as we talk. Doodle.
Don't take that to heart because that's a sign of somebody really listening. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about stories, figs, wasps. No one listening is going to even be able to follow. But I at least wanted to get that off my chest just so we can honor that authenticity we talked about last time. Remember that?
Yes.
So we were talking about authenticity. How did we go about it? As a process rather than a static attribute?
Yes.
And the value in that process is the flexibility it lends itself to. Mm-hmm. And also like the heart's capacity to listen openly. It extends that, right? Mm-hmm. And then we talked about that dedicated continuity to changing relationships. And here's the thing. So what? Why do we need that? Our bottom line was because if you're born with a heart, you're born for relation. Mm-hmm. And that includes that interaction that's a massive part of our personal development. So to get into pessimism coming from that, speaking, I guess, of what were we saying? Continuity, yes. Right? If you look at the history of man and where we began to where we are today, it's fair to say that we've kind of outgrown simpler times, right? In the earlier part of man's story. And you would think, ideally, with all the advances in agriculture, science, education, and all the advances and possibilities that we've seen, plus our ability just to see through history man's strength and tenacity to survive the worst, right? Mm-hmm. We've seen it repeated, the impossible, and there they are standing on the other side over and over again. You think, seeing all this, we would have a tendency to like a pretty reasonably positive view of life. Mm. The thing is, the tendency is still to strive for like a happiness, cheerfulness, but the underlying still kind of negativity. Now, I'm not yet saying pessimism. Mm. When I do speak about pessimism, we're talking about that temperament of mind, if you want to, not a pessimist, which is where it's a fixed state of mind, right? So we have this weird tendency to like want cheerfulness. If you don't believe it, walk through I guess they used to call it self-help, but that was a little pessimistic. So now they call it,
Yes, they
what
changed
is
the
it?
name.
What is it?
They
But our
did.
culture, it's all about self-care. It's a more positive.
Right.
I had, you hear positive psychology now. You hear, since quite some time, affirmations and so on. So a lot of stress in our specific culture is put on being positive, optimistic. People love optimists. You're more likely to get a job, more likely to keep it. You're more likely to be popular.
Yeah.
You're more likely to have followers.
That goes in the good column.
Check. But if we're honest, pessimism has somehow managed to remain through all these advances of humanity. And where I'm coming from, I say rightly so. When I was thinking about this, it brought me back to, so I'm thinking like mankind's story, and I was like, what does this relate to? And then I was thinking like, you know what? The most recent story that comes to mind is your beloved fig wasp, Marianne. And then I was like, that hairy-legged, stinging, buzzing, fruit-wrecking, creepy character who found a way to secure his place through the centuries of evolution with the fig. They've evolved together,
Yeah,
right?
with a certain kind of love, for sure.
I'm thinking like this hairy, stinging, awful, creepy character is kind of an archetype of sorts that we're able to kind of make a decent case for at this point. We did with the wasp when it showed up, right?
Right.
So now, what if pessimism were seen the same way that you saw that, the wasp, openly, without bias? Hard to do because we have a whole lot of pressure on us not to. And that's that outside kind of tension put on us. What do you think it would look like if we could just have an honest look at it and see what it reveals about itself?
Yes. Right.
Where would you go with that?
Well, to me, it's kind of like what is almost delightful, right, about the journey of the wasp and the fig is that, and even our talk about pessimism today, the heart, right, as we've come to, is a sacred space within all of us. And sometimes some sacred spaces don't bear the usual characteristics, the expected characteristics of sacred space. Holy, calm, forgiving. Sometimes it is a big lament, and that is totally how I started. With like, not my fig can't have been ew. A wasp is what's making my fig ripen. That it was a lament. I don't like this. This isn't what I'm expecting. And the heart can hold that. That's the whole thing. The heart can hold that. The heart is beholding. It will be able to hold pessimism. It can hold it and say, look at you, how pessimistic you are being. What are we going to do with that? What can we make of that? Where are we going to go with it? It's an energy, right? That can be creative or destructive. And like all energies.
Wait, okay, I'm processing this because you just floored me. I got goosebumps, I want to say, when you said lamenting, because it made me picture the Wailing Wall. And I'm going to cry
come back
because
to that
today
again
is
and
emotional. Let's just say it so I don't get the heaviness in my throat. We've seen the news.
Yes.
It hurts today.
It does.
And it's very hard to be optimistic, but it's a good time to discuss the truth of optimism and pessimism and a value in each by respecting each. that respect.
Yes, and that
the
is
value.
really true, because here you're talking about what's current, which is what's happening in Afghanistan. And I was reading a little blog from a mayor in Afghanistan, the first woman mayor.
Yes.
And she was in her apartment, and it was absolutely a pessimistic response to the reality, which is there is nowhere for us to go, and I am waiting for the Taliban to come to our door and kill us. And there was so much dignity in that.
Wasn't there calm?
Calm, dignified, held in the space of the broken heart, right?
It's actually, I'm picturing what you're saying when you say dignity. I also had pictured that there wasn't defiance.
Not in that
One-
moment, acceptance.
And that would, because an optimism would be like, I can dig a tunnel still.
Right.
I can, these extremes, because, and I was telling you just before it started, we're looking at the Middle East, middle. That's right, where East merges into West, at least philosophically.
Yes.
Aristotle, you have all the thinkers that began making an earthy, solid
Very
type of
interesting,
philosophy
Lori. Yeah,
from
very
what
interesting.
before was more spiritual. And
Yep.
we need both. We need that grounding, which can be unpopular because Western philosophy is very solid and tangible,
Yes.
and it can tend to seem less spiritual. But unless you have that look at it where it builds upon something else that was first. And so when you meet in the middle, which is, Marianne, everything we've been talking about so far has been coming to the middle. And what happens, and can we hold it while it happens?
Yeah.
And not that it would be easy, because listen, I've told you when it comes to some of these things, for me, like hardship, heartbreak, let's say, heart-wrenching break within me, I have to sometimes write down the truth of something, and which means to first acknowledge it, and it can require a certain pessimism in the heart. And I want to stress one more time, this is not to say a pessimistic general disposition, okay, where I tend to, the negative, the dark, the painful aspects of life tend to appeal to me more than the good. Not that. That's a preference. That's a choice. That's a step you would take. So we're marking something in time just before an act of will.
Yes.
And where we still can captivate and have a look at it and make a good, balanced choice. It may not seem good on the other side. It may seem horrifying. But in good, we mean the best possible choice in line with who we're made to be. And what that implies about how we live our life, how we speak about the worst things approaching us, or how we refuse to speak. And the step that goes beyond refusing to speak about the worst approaching us is to deny it. That, to me, is unacceptable.
Well, and it's, if we are talking about switching gears to the heart,
Right.
perceiving from the heart what is about to come to us, then there is a certain stillness, silence before what is about to be revealed to us, because we're drawing a line. We're drawing the line in the sand that says, I am going to see this from the heart's eye. And that then moves beyond the lament of like, why all this suffering? Like it's never going to end. This is the plight of human beings, into something that is about to be revealed without judgment, without labels, just a seeing that's
Not-
different.
Not without the process. And this is why where we came from was being dedicated to the process, because it gets ugly. Some won't survive it. It's that ugly and frightening.
And what pessimism does is it does kind of like put the walls around, right? It narrows the view. In the heart, it allows for an expansion. The walls begin to expand there. But it is not about casting it out in any way.
No.
It's about this holding space. And I love what you said. I don't want it to disappear when you said you look to write down a truth.
Oh, I've told you I have to, because
No, it's a
I want
very
to deny.
important
I want to deny
practice.
I'm a chicken. I'm a chicken.
Right.
But I'm also told I'm one of the bravest people that many know, but that's because I know I'm a chicken. If that can make sense.
No, that you're so scared.
Yeah,
That
things that scare me, but it's not, fear is not a good enough reason not to take next steps in life.
Right.
To me, anyways.
and to commit it to the word of what is,
Oh, I like that.
right?
Listen
Almost becomes this living guide, this word.
I want to take a moment. I had put this in notes almost as cut and paste, just to have like a little bit more, just to feel like I had a little bit more base myself without the intention of saying it. When we're talking about pessimism, and this is, I'm saying for you, Marianne, and for myself, and anybody else who can have that feeling because of just discomfort with holding the low expectancy or the negative expectancy, because life is all about prediction, right? We make our decisions based on prediction. So how it feels to go against our nature sometimes to predict a hollow outcome.
Yes.
Okay, it doesn't feel right. That doesn't, because I feel a certain foreverness about my being. My personal belief is that that's because I am made to be and will be beyond here. And we can get caught up because of the world's marketing and everything else that talks only about here and sells here and now to us.
Yes.
That we don't seek any type of consolation for the things that, given what's on at least the face and surface of the earth, we would perpetually be inconsolable if we only looked here. For me, it's more than that. So in terms of pessimism, when you go to like philosophical studies, it comes from a German word, and it's very ironic to me that Germans would be coming up with pessimism. And incidentally, as far as labels go, one of my biases towards Germans, which I consider a very positive bias, is they're pretty rigorous people, strong, and they do what they need to do, right? Well, when they're looking at pessimism as a system, it's and this is one specific philosopher, so he does not represent all thoughts in German. This was his own working it out. They call it evil in the full sense. So it's not like merely possessing, like a possessive development of certain principles of nature, but that the fundamental principle of man is essentially bad. We shouldn't be. Look at it. Look at us. What a mess. This should never be. We should not be. That's this whole other step. And I feel like what happens when you do this is you're kind of merging our whole continuum into a little isolated box. if I can say this, and maybe you can help me to correct it if I say it really weird, but we're trying to squeeze our continuum of who we are and who mankind will be, and we'll only know who we were at the end day. I think I won't be here to know how that ends, but I will know my own. But we're trying to fit that whole continuum into the interim, where you take a look. And that squeeze is unbearable. I remember when I would write poems like in my teens, you know, that angst, teen angst, and you're like, ooh, I love to write poems when I was particularly pessimistic, negative. My mom said no, I couldn't go to a party. I spent the evening in my room writing poetry about how awful my life was.
Yes.
And I should know better. This is how it is. And I remember just this one part of one piece that was talking about holding that discomfort. And I think it was kind of an indicator for the future, because I didn't make full sense of it. But I remember saying, like, trying to hold all of that finality in that little interim of one night and one undeveloped heart and one immature girl was a prickly nest in my soul, so that every movement became pain. That's what I called it in the poem. And I don't know what a prickly nest was, but that's what I said. And I think that's why we have to be able to do the quest, and that's that magical gift you gave us last season. We have to dig so deep to take that step back and have a better look. And it's very hard, because the two greatest distractions in life, we've said, are pain and pleasure. And to be in between, to be in one makes it very hard to see the other. When things are good for me, I never think it could go bad. And then I'm so bummed when somebody changes on me, because that can't be. When I'm in pain, it's very hard to see the end of it too. And so I think we have to make that space that you were talking about, and the stillness. It takes a stillness, because every movement otherwise becomes moving around that prickly nest.
Well,
right?
It's what I was thinking when you were talking about the young poet in you, it is sort of connected. I thought of like the birth of the blues music, right? So there is an element of hopelessness and pessimism and injustice. How could my mom not let me go to that party, right? That is so unfair.
Right.
That can then really, in the heart, in moving through the heart to a creative outlet, right? Creating something from that, singing that song, writing
The lamentation.
The lamentation
That's what I thought.
becomes
That's what made me
another
think of it, 'cause you said
form
that.
of theology, really, of
Well,
living.
lamentation is the melancholy song, right?
Right, totally. And it awakens and maybe even inspires the seeker's heart that asks the question.
Marianne, it does, because in those moments when I would write the poetry, that pain extended way beyond what the actuality of the situation. And I take it now like we tap into that creativity, and we like access this channel that's showing us a bigger something and stretching, because a prickly, my soul is going to rupture because I didn't go out.
I agree.
I went to the room, and I accidentally or intentionally, I stumbled upon, or it was revealed to me, however you want to say it, this greater thing that started to train my heart for the horrors of this life.
Well, and I see you, even as you're speaking about it, and the hand gesture of this
it's hard to
movement,
say.
right? It is like a making. It is a translating these ideas, rational thoughts, like really moving past that and creating a movement that allows us to keep moving. But the creative part is key, and we have talked about this here, and it is part of how the heart can hold anything, right? It is embedded in us this is rich. There is a richness and a realness, and it speaks to something authentic about being human. let's see how we move with this. Otherwise, life stops, right? Life ends.
There's no choice. Well, there is a choice, but if we choose, and I don't want to say much more because I wanted to hear. Can you please just talk some more about that? I'm sorry.
No,
I wanted
think
to hear
it's exactly that. It is this: how do we keep moving? How do we keep generating at a time where sometimes, you know what, hope is not appropriate. Like, it's not like we don't need hope all the time. Sometimes we need to simply be in the, I can't hope this is going to get better. I've got to move, create, do.
Yes.
Somehow move this mountain. And it's a mountain to move for sure.
Marianne, you scared me when you said sometimes we need to not hope, because my first instinct is to be like, no, but I do feel it. I can't explain why, but I think it's accurate. It feels right, what you're saying, because hope never, it's virtuous, right?
Yes.
And so in virtue, it's a practice of, we hope for the underlying meaning in what we witness and experience. We hope that we will land beyond it, but we're not hoping like to put your hope, because what you're talking about is something here and now and on earth. And so to say I have limits in hope for what I see on earth is appropriate, because maybe that's not the beginning and end of it then.
Yes.
And I find that tremendous, what you're saying. I also want to say it gives, I feel even more hopeful now, because this wasn't anything what we planned on talking about, except that you said a couple seconds before we started.
Right.
I
think I'm pessimistic today, Lori.
I think
That's what I said.
No, but I think it's amazing,
which isn't usual for us. It's not. It's not our usual nature.
No, your nature's still optimistic, and I respect that more about you. I would like to start our next talk actually specifically about that, because I had told you, I'm going to say it now and then I'm going to say it again when we do it, that I was realizing, because I was like, oh, I haven't thought much about this. I need to think about it on the drive. And as I was thinking about it, I was distracted by the thought that a commonality you have with my mom.
Yes.
And can I say?
Sure.
So what I was telling you was that you have this one inverted graph that my mom has, this inverted line that my mom has, where the world's kind of on its head when it comes to this, where if somebody comes to you, and I know this because I've done it, the more tremendous atrocity I have to report to you, I somehow feel more secure in knowing I will not get a horrible reaction. Yeah. She will not go Taliban on me.
Yeah.
And I'm not making light. I mean
No.
I'm being completely true. There's a sense of me that knows this, I am in no danger. In fact, I'm safer than when I just am being stupid and err, because this, I really messed up, and I'm going to tell her I was feeling spiteful and did this. Mm-hmm. So you're this kind of optimist where your capacity to hold the bigger is fine, because I had joked, right? I texted you.
I really appreciate that.
I sent you this long text, and I'm like, I'm sorry for the long text. And then I said something like, but your pessimism of me should make it just fine. Right. You'll be able to hold it. I'm not worried.
I thought it was great.
But there's this certain gift to people around you where you become more approachable as an optimist, which is that final naming of your continuum, your whole personhood we could give you, because you know how to utilize pessimism appropriately.
That's a beautiful reflection.
And I find it a gift. And so I also respect when you're feeling heavy. There's a lot to it, but I trust you to be able to hold it.
Yes.
The worse it is. Yes. And you said it yourself. I wrote this down. you were talking about what happens in the heart, and I was like, well, golly gosh, I wonder if she knows she's telling me about herself here, because you said when something comes to us, it's lamentation. We get to this holy, calm stillness. And I was thinking, Marianne, because
That's
when somebody
interesting.
does a whopper, I can see the still come over you.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And this is a
Lori.
truth.
Thank
Like without,
you for
with,
that.
no, but if we
That's
remove
an
all
amazing
ego,
reflection.
we both know what I'm talking about.
I do. I do
This certain thing that you
recognize
do.
it.
Yes.
I
right?
recognize it.
And I
Yep.
think that comes with a fair, unbiased pessimism where, well, me and Lori couldn't have gone on forever without bumping heads. That's the pessimist in you. So, all right, got it. And then kicks in that dedicated relationship that says what you said, moving on beyond suffering.
Yeah. Oh, what a great thing to
And that's,
talk more about.
And that's where we will leave
That's
today.
so interesting.
Thank you for listening, especially because it was a little heavy, like we both felt heavy coming into today. It's a rough time. Times are rough. But the other thing is, we needed a healthy dose of pessimism because we become blind to what's been going on anyways.
Yeah, true.
Sometimes unless it's right in front of our face, we are very good at being very short-term in memory. So you can like and share the podcast. They're generally optimistic, and we focus on that. You can like and share Strong Island Radio. We're here with Bobby. Bobby, you're an optimist, right? He's coming. You're one of our more optimistic people, but practical, right? And also we'll get to that, talking about pessimism, optimism, practicality, because you hear people say, I'm not a pessimist, I'm a realist. Maybe we can try to talk about it. So until next time, be optimistic. And when that feeling rises in you of pessimism, have a good look. Have a good look and make it useful, purposeful. And until next time, please farewell.